The first thing I noticed wasn't the flames. It wasn't the smoke. It wasn't the sirens. It was the silence. A silence so wrong, so heavy, it sat in my chest like a stone. I had just turned onto Cedar Glen Road, my street, 3 days earlier than expected. I had planned everything perfectly. The surprise return, the homemade dinner, the flowers Lena loved, the little stuffed lamb for our unborn daughter. Her name, we had chosen it together, Aria, our little Aria. She kicked every morning at 7 a.m., and Lena would laugh softly, pressing my hand to her belly through our snowy video calls while I was deployed overseas. I held on to those memories during the hardest nights. Those promises kept me alive. But as I turned onto our street, those memories shattered, because my home, our home, was on fire. A roaring, violent inferno swallowed the 2-story house. Flames crawled up the siding like hungry fingers. The windows glowed orange, warped and trembling. A plume of thick black smoke climbed into the sky like a signal flare. And my wife was inside. My pregnant wife. For a moment, my heart stopped beating. Then it exploded into panic. I slammed the brakes so hard, the tires screamed. The box of flowers flipped onto the floor. The stuffed lamb tumbled under the seat. None of it mattered anymore. Lena. The scream ripped out of me before I even knew I was running. Neighbors stood outside their homes in little clusters, silent, watching, frozen like statues. Some had phones to their ears. Others just stared. But not a single one was moving toward the flames. Not one. I ran toward the house, shoving past a man holding a half-asleep toddler. "Ethan, don't! You'll die!" he shouted. I didn't care. I wasn't leaving her. Not again. The heat hit me like a truck when I kicked open the front door. Not warmth. Not heat. Hell. A violent, suffocating wave of fire blasted outward, forcing me back a step. Smoke poured out in thick, choking curtains. My training kicked in instantly. Drop low. Breathe shallow. Count steps. Stay oriented. Move fast. I crawled into the living room, my living room now, a burning maze of collapsing furniture and falling embers. Our photos melted on the walls. Our wedding portrait dripped down the frame like ink. The flames ate everything we had built. "Lena," I yelled again, coughing. And then, a faint sound. A cough. Upstairs. My blood ran cold. She was alive. But for how long? The staircase was half collapsed. Flames chewed through the railing. Smoke swirled in dark waves around the ceiling. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed the burning railing with my bare hand, skin blistering instantly, and hauled myself up, one step at a time, ignoring the pain tearing through me. Up, up, up. Every step groaned. The wood cracked. Heat burned through my jeans. Smoke scorched my throat. But I kept climbing. For her. For Aria. At the top, I turned left toward our bedroom, or what was left of it. The door was hanging by one hinge. Flames licked the carpet. The curtains were a sheet of fire. And Lena, my beautiful Lena, was on the floor, beside the shattered window. Her belly rose and fell faintly. She was breathing, but barely. Her hair was charred. Her dress burned in patches. Her arms scorched from trying to protect her unborn child. Her lips were cracked and blackened from smoke. I dropped to my knees. "Lena, baby, I'm here." Her eyelids fluttered weakly. Ethan?" Her voice was so small, so broken, it made my chest feel like it was splitting open. "I've got you." I slid one arm under her back, the other around her belly. She whimpered from the pain, but she held on to me. The ceiling above us groaned. A beam fell and shattered inches from her head. We were almost out of time. "Hold on, Lena." I stood, lifting her fully. She felt weightless, too weightless. As I turned toward the hallway, flames roared, blocking the stairs. There was only one option left. The window. I ran. The floor shook. The walls cracked. Flames chased us. I swung my elbow into the window, glass exploded outward. I covered Lena with my body and jumped. We hit the ground hard. I rolled to take the impact, protecting her stomach with my forearms. Pain shot up my spine. Glass tore through my skin. But she was alive. I pulled her into my lap. Help! Someone help! No one moved. No one. Cowards. Lena's breathing was shallow. Her eyelids half closed. I pressed my forehead to hers. Stay with me, baby. Stay with me. She struggled to speak. It wasn't an accident. Her voice cracked. I held her tighter. Who did this? Her lips trembled. Evelyn. My blood turned to ice. Evelyn Grant? The HOA president. The woman who had tormented us since day one. The woman obsessed with control. The woman who once told Lena, "People like you don't belong in my community." My jaw clenched so hard I felt a tooth crack. She lit the fire, Lena whispered, and then she went limp in my arms. When the ambulance arrived, I refused treatment. I sat beside her gurney the entire way. Her pulse was faint, her breath shallow, her skin growing cold. The paramedics spoke in rushed tones, trying to stabilize her. One of them, a young guy with kind eyes, looked at me. "Sir, she needs emergency surgery now." I nodded, unable to speak. At the ER, they tried pulling me into a separate room for my burns. I fought them. "No, I'm not leaving her." A nurse grabbed my shoulders. "Sir, if we don't treat you, you might collapse. Your wife needs you conscious." That broke me. I let them treat me, but I watched every second through the glass window as doctors swarmed Lena. When they rushed her upstairs for surgery, they took me to a small trauma bay. A doctor stitched my cuts. Another examined my burns. An oxygen mask covered my face. But nothing, not the pain, not the machines, not the nurses, pulled my attention away from that double-door operating room at the end of the hall. Behind it was everything I loved. 3 agonizing hours later, a doctor approached. His face told me everything before he even spoke. "Mr. Walker, your wife is alive." "Redding." My knees buckled. He continued, "But we had to perform an emergency C-section. Your daughter, Aria, is alive, but extremely premature." I closed my eyes, tears spilling. Alive. They were alive. Barely. But alive. "Can I see them?" I whispered. The NICU was quiet, cold. Soft beeping sounds and tiny incubators lined the walls. A nurse guided me to a small glass box. Inside was my daughter, so tiny, so fragile, her chest rising in little uneven breaths, tubes everywhere. "She's a fighter," the nurse whispered. "Like her father." I placed my hand on the glass and cried silently. For the first time since the fire, I let myself feel something other than rage. Then they took me to Lena. She lay perfectly still, bandages wrapped around her arms and chest, a ventilator helping her breathe. Machines beeped steadily beside her. She looked nothing like the woman I left 6 months ago. But to me, she was still the most beautiful thing in the world. I took her hand gently. "Lena, I'm here. I'm right here." Her eyelids didn't move. Her fingers didn't squeeze mine back. But I knew she heard me. I leaned close. "I swear to you, to Aria, and to whatever God is listening, I'll make Evelyn Grant pay for what she did." The monitor beeped, just slightly louder. A response. She heard me. The next morning, 2 officers entered the room. Officer Hale, tall. Bald, stiff. Officer Benton, younger, nervous, eyes darting. Hale cleared his throat. "Mr. Walker, we need to discuss the fire." I stood, still holding Lena's hand. "What do you want to know?" Benton looked uncomfortable. "Your wife mentioned a name before she lost consciousness." I nodded once. "Yes, she said Evelyn Grant. Hale Seahill heavily. Mr. Walker. Mrs. Grant is a respected member of the community. She claims she was hosting a charity dinner at the time of the fire. My jaw tightened. And you believe her? Hale shrugged. 22 people confirmed she was there. I laughed bitterly. They're all members of her HOA. They do whatever she tells them. Benton shifted uneasily. Do you have any evidence she was involved? I stepped forward. My wife almost died. My daughter barely survived. That's my evidence. Hale raised a hand. Mr. Walker, we can't accuse someone of arson without hard proof. My voice turned ice cold. Then I'll get the proof myself. Hale stiffened. Don't do anything reckless. I stared him dead in the eye. Try to stop me. I returned to the NICU before sunrise. Aria was still asleep, her tiny chest rising and falling underneath the glow of the incubator lamp. I placed my palm against the glass. Daddy's here, sweetheart. My voice cracked. No one will ever hurt you or your mom again. The monitor beeped softly, steady and strong. I took a deep breath. This wasn't over. This was the beginning. Evelyn Grant thought she could destroy my family. She thought she could burn us out of existence. She thought I would break. But she forgot one thing. I didn't come home a broken man. I came home a soldier. And now, I was coming for her. Morning never truly arrived at the hospital. The sun rose outside, but inside, the world stayed cold, fluorescent, and too quiet. I hadn't slept more than 10 minutes. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw flames, smelled smoke, heard Lena whispering Evelyn's name before collapsing in my arms. I stood outside the NICU, watching little Aria fight for air with tiny breaths that sounded more like whispers. Machines hummed like distant thunder. Her incubator released soft beeps, almost like a lullaby that kept me from falling apart. But inside, I was a storm. I pressed my forehead against the glass. I'm going to protect you, I whispered. Not a promise, a vow. And that vow led me to my next move. By noon, I was back at what remained of our house. The fire trucks were gone. The crowd was gone. The street was eerily silent, as if the entire neighborhood was holding its breath, waiting for me to leave so their perfect little community could forget the fire ever happened. But I wasn't leaving. Ash covered everything like a thin gray snow. The smell of burnt wood and melted plastic hung in the air. Charred beams stuck out of the ground like blackened ribs. This was my home. Now it was a graveyard of memories. I stepped over the caution tape. As soon as my boot touched the burnt grass, a voice snapped from behind. Excuse me, that's restricted. I turned slowly. There she was, Evelyn Grant, perfectly dressed, perfectly calm, perfectly cruel. Her pearl earrings shimmered like nothing in her world was broken. Like my wife wasn't in a hospital. Like my daughter wasn't fighting for life because of her. She smiled, actually smiled. Ethan, she said, as if we were equals. You should have called before coming here. The HOA still has authority over this property. My hands curled into fists. Authority. I repeated softly. You set my house on fire. Her eyebrows lifted in fake shock. Hand over her chest. My goodness, what a terrible accusation. Her tone was sweet. Her eyes were knives. I was hosting a fundraiser last night, she said calmly. I have witnesses, many. I stepped closer. Lena gave your name before she went unconscious. For one split second, one tiny moment, her mask cracked. A flicker of fear crossed her eyes. Then it was gone. Ah. She exhaled softly. Your wife is confused. Trauma does that. I could feel my heartbeat pounding in my ears. You're going to jail. Her smile widened. You really think anyone will believe a man with your record? I froze. What record? She leaned in slightly. You know, your deployment incidents. My stomach twisted. She knew everything. Evelyn straightened her blazer. This neighborhood is private property. If you trespass again, I'll make sure you're removed permanently. Removed. Not arrested. Removed. I knew exactly what that meant. HOA presidents like her didn't threaten with police. They threatened with power. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Sell the land, Ethan. Leave town. Start over somewhere else before things get worse. I didn't move, didn't blink, just stared into her cold blue eyes. You almost killed my family. I'm not leaving. Her lips curled slightly. Then I suppose we'll see how long your wife survives the stress. That did it. I took one step toward her. She stumbled back. For the first time, she looked scared. Touch me, and you'll go to prison, she hissed. I didn't touch her. I just said, I'm coming for the truth. And for the first time, Evelyn Grant lost her smile. After she left, I walked the perimeter of the burned house, searching the ground carefully, fighting through rubble and twisted metal. My boots crushed shards of glass and charred wood as I checked every corner. Then something caught my eye. Near the back door, buried partially under ash, was a small silver object. I crouched, brushing soot away. A lighter. An expensive, engraved lighter. The initials read, E.G. My hands shook not from fear, from rage. I slipped it into my pocket carefully, like it was a sacred piece of evidence. But as I stood, a sharp voice came from behind me. Hands where I can see them. I turned, slowly. 2 police cruisers. 4 officers. Guns out. Officer Hale stepped forward with a grim expression. Mr. Walker, step away from the debris. Why? I didn't do anything. Hale narrowed his eyes. We received an anonymous report that you were attempting to tamper with the fire scene. I almost laughed. Anonymous. Meaning Evelyn. Officer Benton approached, trying to avoid eye contact. Ethan, please, just cooperate. I lifted my hands. I'm trying to find who did this. Hale nodded slowly. And we're trying to prevent escalation. Escalation? I repeated. My wife is in a coma. My daughter is premature. My house is ash. The only escalation is justice. Hale looked away. He knew. He knew exactly what this was. But still, he said, if we find you here again, we'll arrest you. They escorted me off my own land. The land I bought. The land I built on. The land where my family almost died. Everything inside me hardened. This wasn't just about a fire anymore. Someone was protecting Evelyn. Someone had influence. Someone with money and power. And if they wanted a war, I'd give them one. When I returned to the hospital, exhaustion hit me like a wave. I stood outside Lena's room, barely holding myself together. Nurse Camille, a woman in her 50s with tired eyes and a motherly calmness, placed a hand on my arm. You need rest, she said gently. Your burns, your breathing, you're running on fumes. I wiped soot from my face. I can't rest. If I stop moving, I'll break. She gave me a sympathetic look. Your wife is stable. Your daughter is holding strong. They need you alive. I took a shaky breath. Nurse, do patients ever talk, even if they're unconscious? She nodded. Yes, sometimes. I stepped inside Lena's room. Her chest rose and fell slowly. Her face was pale. Her arms bandaged. Her hair shaved near the burn wounds. I sat beside her, holding her hand gently. I saw Evelyn today. Her eyelids flickered weakly, like she recognized the name. I squeezed her hand. I found a lighter with her initials. Her monitor beeped faster for a moment, just slightly. A reaction. Proof. I swallowed hard. I promise. I won't let her hurt us again. A soft voice came from behind. You're Ethan Walker, right? I turned. A man in a brown jacket stood in the doorway. Mid-40s. Shaggy hair. Dark circles under his eyes. He extended a card. Marcus Reed, private investigator. I frowned. Who sent you? He looked around, lowered his voice. Your neighbor. The one with the toddler. Name's Jared. He saw the fire, and he doesn't believe it was an accident either. My heart thudded. Why would he hire a PI? Marcus stepped closer. Because he said, "You're going to need backup. Evelyn Grant has connections. Dangerous ones." I stared at him. He didn't blink. He wasn't lying. I exhaled slowly. Night fell heavy over the hospital, pressing like a weight against the windows. I sat beside Lena, listening to the machines breathe for her. Every beep, every hiss felt like a countdown. I stroked her bandaged hand with my thumb. "I'm not going anywhere," I whispered. But outside, trouble was moving. Marcus Reed leaned against the hallway wall, flipping through a worn leather notebook. His clothes were wrinkled, his beard scruffy, but there was sharp calculation in his eyes. "You ever worked with a private investigator?" he asked. I shook my head. He smirked. "Good. Means you're not used to disappointment." He pulled out a small folder and handed it to me. Inside were photos of Evelyn Grant. Not the polished HOA president everyone knew, but a woman standing outside, late-night meetings with men in suits, exchanging envelopes, entering unmarked offices on the industrial side of town. "How did you get these?" I asked. "Because I've been watching this neighborhood for 3 months, he said. "Before your house ever burned." My stomach twisted. "Why?" Marcus lowered his voice. "Because Maple Grove isn't just a neighborhood. It's a laundering system." I blinked. "For what?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he opened another document, one that made my blood run cold. It was a ledger. HOA fees, fines, penalties, all with inflated numbers. But the final pages: massive cash withdrawals, unreported transfers, hidden accounts under shell companies. "This isn't HOA money anymore," Marcus said. "This is criminal funding." I stared at him. "You're saying Evelyn is part of a bigger operation?" He nodded. "And your fire?" That wasn't random. It was a warning. Before I could respond, someone approached, hesitant footsteps, nervous breathing. Jared, my neighbor. The quiet guy with the toddler who always waved from across the street. He looked terrified. I shouldn't be here," he whispered. Marcus crossed his arms. "Tell him." Jared swallowed hard and reached into his coat, pulling out a flash drive. This has security footage." My pulse jumped. "From where?" His voice shook. "From the camera I hid under my porch roof. It faces your side of the street." I stared at him in disbelief. He looked ashamed. "My wife made me put it up. We've had break-ins before. I didn't want to get involved, but after what happened to your wife..." Marcus took the flash drive. "This could show everything." Jared nodded. "I saw shadows that night. Movement. Someone near your back door. But I was too scared to go outside." His voice cracked. "I'm sorry I didn't help sooner." I placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're helping now." Tears filled his eyes. "Evelyn's dangerous, Ethan. People in the HOA are scared of her. They pretend to like her, because if they don't, she makes their lives hell." I believed him, every word. And now I knew. Evelyn didn't act alone. She was backed by something bigger. We managed to get access to a small conference room in the hospital. Marcus plugged in the flash drive. The screen lit up. Street view. Motion detected. Timeline. 11:54 p.m. The night before the fire. Marcus hit play. A figure appeared, dressed in black, moving toward my backyard gate, carrying something heavy. My heart pounded. "Who is that?" Jared whispered. The person moved closer. Then the porch light caught a reflection. A white blazer, blonde hair pulled into a tight bun. Evelyn, carrying a red canister. Gasoline. I gripped the edge of the table. Marcus froze the frame. "That's enough to bury her," he said quietly. But I knew better. No, it's enough to make her dangerous. Because cornered animals don't surrender. They attack. When we stepped out of the conference room, the hospital seemed strangely quiet. Nurses rushed past. Alarms beeped in other rooms, but the main hallway was deserted. Too deserted. Marcus noticed it too. His hand drifted near his jacket, reaching for something I hadn't seen before, a concealed piece. But then, a figure appeared at the end of the hall. A tall man, black trench coat, hat pulled low. He wasn't moving toward us. He was watching us. Then he walked away slowly, disappearing down the corridor. Jared swallowed. "Who was that?" Marcus muttered. "Someone who knows we're getting close." As we approached Lena's room, my phone buzzed. "Unknown number." I answered. A soft, chilling female voice whispered, "You should have left, Ethan." My entire body went cold. "Evelyn." She laughed light, polite, cruel. "You made this difficult. I offered you a peaceful exit." My jaw clenched. "You set my house on fire." A pause. "And I'll do much worse if you continue this little investigation." I stepped into Lena's room. Aria's monitor beeped softly in the NICU next door. "If you touch my family again." "Oh, darling," Evelyn interrupted sweetly. "I already have." My blood froze. "What?" Her voice turned cold. "Check your daughter's incubator." My heart dropped. I ran. Nurses crowded the NICU room in panic. Machines beeped wildly. My daughter, my tiny Aria, was gasping, struggling harder than before. Nurse Camille rushed toward me. "Something's in her system. Someone contaminated her oxygen line." I nearly collapsed. Marcus cursed under his breath. "She's escalating. Fast." Jared looked sick. "Dear God, this is a baby." The doctor barked orders. "Switch the line. Increase oxygen. Keep her stable." My knees hit the floor. I felt the world collapse around me. "Please," I whispered. "Please don't take her too." After what felt like forever, the machine steadied. Her breathing normalized. The doctor exhaled. "She's safe. For now." But the fear, the rage, it carved something inside me. Something unbreakable. I stood slowly. My voice was low, steady, deadly calm. "Evelyn wants a war?" I looked Marcus straight in the eyes. "Then we end this tonight." He nodded. "Then we go to her." The night outside the hospital was unnaturally still, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The streetlights buzzed faintly, casting pale yellow pools across the empty parking lot. Marcus, Jared, and I stood beside my truck, planning the next move. Marcus flicked his cigarette away. "Evelyn is hiding something at the HOA headquarters. Files, ledgers, meetings, cameras." He lifted a small black device, a bypass key. "If she's running a criminal network under HOA cover, her entire operation is in that building." Jared shivered. "That place gives me nightmares. The lights are always on, people coming and going at weird hours." I climbed into the driver's seat. "Then that's where we go." But before I started the engine, my eyes drifted back toward the hospital windows, toward Lena, toward my daughter, fighting for every breath. A quiet fury settled into my bones. This wasn't revenge anymore. This was survival. Maple Grove HOA headquarters didn't look dangerous. It looked harmless, clean white siding, trimmed hedges, a sign with elegant gold lettering, but the building had a dead feeling. Too quiet, too perfect, too controlled. Marcus scanned the perimeter. "Security system updated last month. New sensors, new cameras." I stared at the front door. So Evelyn expected someone to come for her. Marcus grinned. "Good thing she didn't expect me." He inserted the bypass key into the security panel. Lights blinked. The system chirped. The lock clicked. We slipped inside. The interior was spotless, too spotless. A wide lobby, tidy counters, a wall of HOA awards and plaques. But beneath the lemon-scented air, something rotten lingered. We moved deeper, past the meeting rooms, past the financial office. Then we reached a locked metal door labeled, "Authorized Staff Only." Jared whispered, "This room, This is where she always went after hours. Marcus knelt and opened the lock within seconds. The door swung open. The room was unlike anything we expected. Not an office, not storage. It was a command center, wall-to-wall monitors, live camera feeds of every house in Maple Grove, street surveillance, porch cameras, backyard views, private drives. My stomach twisted. She was spying on the entire neighborhood. Jared turned pale. This is illegal, beyond illegal. Marcus stepped forward and grabbed a folder from a desk. It gets worse. The papers inside showed maps of every house, emergency access codes, notes about neighbors' routines, bank statements, blackmail files. But then Marcus stopped at one page, his jaw tightening. Look at this. It was a security photo. A man in a police uniform. Officer Barrett. The same cop who brushed off my initial complaint. The same cop who refused to write reports unless Evelyn approved. Marcus tapped the page. He's not just protecting her. He's working for her. I clenched my fists. This is a whole network. Marcus nodded. Construction companies, inspectors, city officials. Evelyn has them all on her payroll. But the worst was still ahead. In the back of the command room was another door. A heavy, reinforced steel one. Completely out of place in a suburban HOA building. Jared swallowed hard. I've never seen this opened. Marcus frowned. There's no lock. It's biometric. Before any of us could react, the steel door clicked and opened. By itself, a figure stood behind it holding a flashlight. Officer Barrett. His face was blank, emotionless. Behind him, 3 more men stepped into the hallway, all wearing tactical vests. Barrett smiled without warmth. Evening, gentlemen. I reached for my belt instinctively. Barrett raised his hand. Relax, Ethan. If I wanted you dead, you wouldn't have made it through the parking lot. Marcus muttered under his breath. This is bad. Barrett stepped forward, hands behind his back. Evelyn would like to extend a courtesy. I glared. She tried to kill my wife. She poisoned my daughter. Barrett shrugged. Accusations, emotional ones. Nothing proven. Marcus snapped. We have video, and files, and witnesses. Barrett's smile grew, and we have a judge in our pocket. A district attorney. Half the police force. He tilted his head. So, who do you think wins this? Barrett unfolded a small envelope and handed it to me. Inside was a plane ticket. One way, to anywhere. Leave town tonight, he said calmly. Forget everything. Take your wife and child, and disappear. I stared at him. You think I'm running? He leaned close enough for me to smell his cologne. If you stay, we will finish what we started. My jaw tightened. Marcus whispered, Don't take the bait. We need to get out alive first. But Barrett wasn't finished. He tapped my chest. You're not a Navy SEAL anymore, Ethan. His voice dropped to a venomous whisper. You're just a man with a dying wife and a premature baby. Something in me broke. Not fear. Resolve. Barrett snapped his fingers. The lights went out. Pitch black darkness swallowed the room. Jared yelled. Marcus cursed. A fist slammed into my ribs. Another blow hit my shoulder. Flashlights flickered through the gloom, but they weren't ours. 3 silhouettes moved in sync. Trained. Professional. I dropped low and swept the nearest man's leg, slamming him into a desk. Marcus cracked his baton into another's jaw. Jared hid behind a filing cabinet, trembling. Barrett swung at me with a baton. I blocked, countered, grabbed his wrist, and drove my elbow into his throat. He stumbled back, gasping. The lights flickered back to life. 2 of his men were down, 1 unconscious, 1 groaning. Barrett held his throat, eyes burning with rage. This isn't over. He pointed at me. Evelyn wants your family gone. And I always finish my job. He limped toward the exit. Marcus grabbed my arm. Let him go. We got what we needed. We need to get out before reinforcements arrive. I looked at the files, the monitors, the whole operation, and I nodded. We take all of this, every file. Marcus smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed. The system triggered lockdown. We sprinted through the hallway, arms loaded with files, hard drives, and photos. Jared fumbled with the front door lock. Come on, come on. The metal bolt clicked. We burst outside just as two black SUVs turned onto the street. Barrett's back up. Marcus shouted, "Run!" We dove behind my truck as bullets cracked through the night, shattering the HOA sign, blowing out windows, tearing through shrubs. I slammed the key into the ignition. The engine roared. Tires screeched. We shot out of the parking lot, the SUVs chasing us with headlights blazing. Marcus yelled directions. Jared cried. I drove like a man possessed. This wasn't just a fight for justice anymore. This was a war. The wind hammered against the broken windows of the abandoned lodge as Ethan dragged Jared inside. Rain poured in sheets, thunder splitting the sky open like the world was cracking with him. His burns still throbbed beneath the bandages, but nothing hurt more than the rage boiling in his veins. He forced Jared into a chair, tied his wrists, and placed a flashlight under his chin, casting shadows across the terrified man's face. The storm outside felt like an extension of Ethan's fury, loud, uncontrolled, unstoppable. Jared sobbed, trying to speak, his voice shaking so violently the words barely formed. Ethan, listen, I didn't know she was inside. Karen just said the house needed to be dealt with. I thought it was some HOA enforcement thing. I never wanted. Shut your mouth. Ethan's voice was low, cold enough to freeze the air. You lit the match. You torched my wife. You almost killed my child. I swear she said you were dangerous. She said you'd kill us all if we didn't follow. Ethan leaned in slowly. I'm dangerous now. Jared broke like glass, spilling everything, names, dates, meetings with Karen, the corrupted HOA council, the property scam, the bribes, the threats, the fire. Wasn't random. It wasn't a mistake. It was intentional. A targeted elimination. Karen had planned every detail. The roar of the storm grew louder, the wind howling through cracks in the walls. Ethan grabbed Jared by the shirt collar. You're coming with me. You'll tell the police exactly what you told me. Word for word. Jared's shaking intensified. Karen won't let me live if I talk. Ethan hauled him up. Karen's not your problem anymore. Police cruisers surrounded Karen's mansion lights, flashing red and blue, agents moving through the property with rifles raised. But Karen stood at the top of her marble steps like she owned the world, wearing a silk robe, wine glass in hand, laughing. You brought the whole circus, Ethan, she called out. But you can't prove anything. Ethan pushed Jared forward. The man collapsed to his knees, pointing at Karen, shaking violently. She told me to burn the house. She ordered everything. Karen's face cracked for the first time. You pathetic moron. I told you to scare them, not burn. But she said it too fast, too loud, too late. Every officer heard it. Every body cam recorded it. Karen lunged toward Ethan, shrieking, You ruined everything. You ruined my plans. That land was worth millions. She grabbed a garden tool, a sharp metal rake, and sprinted toward him. Officers shouted for her to stop, but she ignored them. Ethan didn't flinch. He stepped between Karen and the police, not out of fear, but out of cold, controlled calm. Karen swung the rake. Ethan caught the handle mid-air and twisted. A sickening crack echoed. Karen collapsed, screaming as officers tackled her. Cuffs snapped around her wrists. Rain soaked her hair, her robe, her expensive jewelry. For the first time, she looked small, weak, powerless. Ethan stood untouched. The nightmare was over. The monster was caged. Ethan rushed into the NICU, his clothes soaked, the cold still clinging to him. Hope, tiny, fragile, fighting, lay inside the incubator, her heart monitor beeping softly like a promise. He placed his hand on the glass. "Daddy took care of the bad woman, sweetheart. No one will ever hurt you or your mom again." A soft voice whispered from behind him. "Ethan?" He turned. His chest collapsed. His knees almost buckled. Emma, awake, weak, pale, wrapped in bandages, but awake. Her eyes glimmered with tears as she reached for him. "You're here. You kept your promise." He rushed into her arms gently, carefully, holding her like she was the whole world. "I'll never leave again," Ethan whispered into her hair. "We're safe now. You, me, and Hope. We're finally safe." Emma smiled through her tears. "Our girl. She's strong, just like her mom." They stayed like that for a long time, two broken souls healing in each other's arms. Karen's empire collapsed within hours. She was arrested, charged with attempted murder, arson, conspiracy, and fraud. Jared entered witness protection. The corrupt HOA board was dismantled. And Ethan? He became a hero, not for being a Navy SEAL, but for being a husband who refused to let evil win. Emma survived. Hope survived. Their scars remained, but so did their strength. This story reminds us of one thing. Evil may strike first, but love always strikes last.